What is going on, hustlers? Welcome back to the channel. Now, if you have ever been confused or struggled when going through solicitations in DIBS, then this is the video for you. Because in today's live coaching session, Day is walking the students through a real life DLA solicitation step by step, decoding NSNs, FSEs, pricing strategies, and key parts that often new contractors miss. So if you want to start bidding with confidence, remove that analysis paralysis, and avoid any costly mistakes, stay tuned because this is the video that you need to be watching. Enjoy.
So I'm gonna have my assistant send this out to everybody in the Skool community. Like, she's just gonna post it, and then you guys are gonna be able to click the link and then access it. So thank you. Thank you for the birthday wishes. So let's see here. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Give me 1 second here. Well, Dibs is loading up. Okay, we got 18 people. Beautiful. And then I'm gonna go to this website, FSC code lookup. Okay, so Victoria's got one for me. So as of right now, this third solicitation I'll be looking at is Victoria's, first come, first serve. So she's got it. And then I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Zoom is like different now though. I don't know what the hell they did. Oh, share. All right. Sweet. So I hope you guys can see that. And then I'm not going to introduce it this time around just because I have a video coming out on it. And I also posted a video today about how to beat analysis paralysis. So go check that out. But the next video that's going to come out on Friday is actually going to be about a free website that's like, it's a substitute for NSN now, and it's free, and they give you a lot of information. And for a free version, I think it's very like a damn good substitute. So going forward, we're gonna start using that website to look up NSNs. I just don't want to introduce it yet until you guys have the opportunity to watch the video. So without further ado, we are going to get started on our first live solicitation breakdown. So you guys are the first people that I've ever done this with, so pretty excited. So here, we're on everyspec.com, FSC code lookup. If you've ever watched any of my YouTube videos about market research or done any, consumed any of the course content, you'll definitely be familiar with this. I talk about this website a lot. Let's see. I want to pick something. Firefighting equipment. That's dealer's choice today. So 4210 firefighting equipment. This is where we are going to begin our search today. So here we're on the DIBS RFQ page, and I just want to make sure you guys can see my screen, right? Please comment down below if you guys cannot see my screen. So 4210 dealer's choice. Federal supply class. That's what we're searching by. Let's see what comes up. All right, cool. So we have here, I'm gonna pick this just because this is the most interesting nomenclature I think I've ever seen. Siamese connection. I couldn't tell you what that means. But let's see. I think it has to do with like the like the attachment that they'll put on like the valves that allow it to split into like two fire hoses. So we clicked on it, right? The nomenclature is Siamese connection. And then just a little fun fact for you guys, which I talk about in the video. So NSN numbers are comprised of 3 different things, right? So the first 2 digits are the federal grouping code, right? So 42, I believe that's like personal safety equipment or something like that. And then 4210 is the like specific equipment, so firefighter or firefighting safety equipment, right? So oh, thank you for that. So Ivan in the chat said, inspired by the Y-shaped Siamese twins, Siamese connection is a Y-shaped fire department connection with 2 female inlets through which firefighters can attach 2 hoses. So I'm happy I wasn't that far off. But back to what I was saying. So NSNs are comprised of three things. So the first of which is an FSC code, Federal Supply Class Code. However, within that FSC code, it's comprised of two things. So the first two digits of the FSC code are the Federal Supply Code, so 42 in this instance. And then the last two digits are the class grouping code. So 42 is safety equipment, I believe. And then 10 is class grouping code. And then all of these numbers right here, these are sorry, I don't know why my mouse is not working, but these numbers right here, that's the NIN or NIIN. So the NIN or National Item Identification Number. So that's a little fun fact for you about how NSNs are actually broken down and what they actually are comprised of. And then here we've got the nomenclature, and then here we've got the acquisition method suffix code, AMSC. So what this means right here is this basically outlines kind of like how the government's going to be procuring this material, like what needs to take place for them to procure it. So you guys can look up what the AMSCs are. I'm not going to go too in depth. I want to get into the solicitation itself. And then here we've got the approved source data. Here you got the company's cage code, their part number, and then their company name. So without further ado, let's get into the solicitation. How are we doing on time? We're at 6:10. All right, cool. So we've got 35 minutes. All right, cool. DLA is doing its little thing. All right, so we got this being downloaded, and then let's see, boom. All right, I hope this is visible for you guys. So, request for quotations, we're starting on page 1. The solicitation has 23 pages. So, anything less than like, I don't know, like 14. 14 is like super simple. I don't think I've ever seen anything less than that. So I guess anything less than 17, that's one of the ways that you can look and notate like how simple a solicitation is, right? So the amount of pages, that's going to give you a lot of information. That's going to tell you how long your section A and your section B are. That's the meat and potatoes of your solicitation. Then you come down here, and then in box 1, you've got your request number, which is the same thing as your solicitation number. There's a lot of redundancy with the government. Then you come down here, date issued. So this was issued in April 2024, the 4th day of April. And then here you got your requisition/purchase request number. So this basically is how the government internally tracks solicitations, right? So externally, us as firms, we track them with solicitations, and then internally they track them with purchase request numbers. So fun fact, solicitation numbers, those can repeat. You can see multiple lines of solicitation numbers, right? Purchase request numbers, those will never repeat. Those are going to be unique to each other. And then here you've got the issuing agency. So obviously we know it's DLA because we got it off DIVS. And then we know it's DLA troop support. And then we know it's DLA construction and equipment class 4. So that's a subdivision of DLA troop support. Why is that important? Maybe I'll make a whole video about that and like the methodology of how to do that. But basically, you know who you're dealing with, right? And then you can basically screen the solicitation that you're working on just by looking at the first page, right? So I know primarily I only want to work with DLA Land and Maritime and DLA Aviation. So if you come across stuff and you keep seeing the same contracting officer, oh, this is Kathleen. She's a very nice lady, by the way. And you keep seeing the same contracting officer in the same subsidiary of DLA, then it might be worth your time, even if maybe it's not in your exact niche, but it's like something related to it, right? That's a good place to start. And then here we look at the delivery date, which if you've taken our class or consumed any of our course content, you know about how we feel about these delivery dates. So you know basically how to construe this number, if you will, or how to interpret it. And then number 7 here, this tells you the delivery, right? So who's paying for the shipping, FOB destination or FOB other. Again, if you've taken any of our course content, you know kind of the difference between these two, and then you know the history but behind the acronym FOB and what it means. So again, here is the phone number of the contracting officer and the email address. And then we come down here, and now we're in section A. So I don't know if you guys noticed, But I saw it, but I didn't want to say anything until we opened it up. So here it says notice of service disabled veteran owned small business set aside. And then if you come here and you look, oh, let's see, is Dibs gonna, yeah, it's doing that weird thing. But I want to show you guys this. And you guys maybe already know this, but I'll still point this out for you guys as this is loading. All right, cool. So we come down here. Here you guys can see there's this little icon, right? SDBO This is the icon right here. This lets you know it's a service disabled veteran owned small business set aside. This U means it's unrestricted, so you can be competing with the big guys like Northrop Grumman. This SB means it's set aside for small business. Now, small business, what determines a small business? Actually I have a video coming out about certifications and stuff and how to get small business certification. So we'll stick to the solicitation breakdown, but keep an eye out for that. But yeah, here's the federal acquisition regulation stating, the set aside. And then here's the NAICS code right here. And then I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you guys and tell you like I know exactly what the non-manufacturer rule is off the top of my head. I think I remember, but the FAR is right here, and you can Google the FAR and look it up. I just don't want to give you guys any information that's not like super, super concise. I got a lot of things in my head from aircraft configurations, from client names to contract numbers. So sometimes like stuff gets like mixed up. So this tells you about how fast pay does not apply to the solicitation. And then all this stuff is pretty much just like jargon about like where they find your PTAC or your Apex. And then talking about like, oh, if you're gonna submit a bid, but it's after the date, then what are you gonna do? Are you gonna use it? Are you gonna like, can you please submit it with a no bid? But realistically, if you weren't gonna bid on something, you just leave it alone. This is kind of redundant. There's a lot of redundancy in the government. And then here this talks about the volatility of demands and then how things can change with contracts and stuff like that. And how like if you provide the government with a quoting range, right? You say, oh, I'll give you between 50 to 75, right? And then they win the contract, or you think you won the contract for 75, they can really award it to you for as little as like 50. But that's like some more in-depth stuff that we'll go over in the boot camp. And then let's see. This is basically saying that you're not gonna, expose any of your communications with the government. And then this talks about the Berry Amendment and the Buy American Act, which I've touched on in a couple YouTube videos. But basically, it just means that material either has to be assembled, the parts, or I'm sorry, let me start from the beginning. The parts have to be manufactured in America. Or let's go even further back. The material used to manufacture the parts has to be sourced from America, a certain percentage of it, or the material has to be manufactured in America, or the manufacturing components have to be assembled in America. So those are like some of the three requirements of the Buy American Act. They differ for every single NAICS code. And there's a couple loopholes, which we're going to talk about during the boot camp. Like there's actually three different ways to get past the Buy American Act or the Berry Amendment. But I'll give you guys a little nugget. Fun fact, anything less than $10,000, you do not need to comply with the Buy American Act. It's not required. And then this talks about like small business joint venture offers, like basically the paperwork that you have to have in place if you are going to be a joint venture with a small business, SDVOSB, woman-owned, or economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business, or a hub zone, which is historically underutilized business zone. Basically, a hub zone is like if you're in the hood. That's in layman's terms and in elementary words. That's how you put it. And then additive manufacturing. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. That's not my wheelhouse. When I work with manufacturers, I just tell them like, hey, are you guys? I just ask them up front like, hey, are you guys gonna be using additive manufacturing? And if so, you need to let me know so I can forward that on. I couldn't tell you what that entails for aircraft components. Couldn't tell you. I just do my due diligence and ask. Buy American versus Buy America, there are differences, just not sure how often you see one or the other. I'm not familiar with the Buy America Act. I know the Buy American Act, which is the Berry Amendment, and that's what I see that's what I see the most. So now we come down here. Section A, so this is the meat and potatoes of basically procurement history. You really don't need NSN now. Like you really don't. It's just the best tool to have if you can only have like one tool. Like if I was going to war with everybody else in the government contracting space and I only had like one weapon that I could bring with me, I would I would literally probably only do NSN now. So give me 1 second. I just got a client text. I'm going to respond to it, and then we're going to get back to breaking down procurement history. As I'm responding to this email, anybody have any questions for me? I see Tayeb said, does Partspace and HireGov do the same thing? And if so, which one do you recommend? So I am not familiar with HireGov. I haven't used it. However, I can tell you that HireGov basically breaks down information, can be used as market research in a way, but it's not a parts marketplace. So it gives you information about solicitations and stuff like that, but it's not a parts marketplace. Whereas Partspace is a parts marketplace, and then it also has the additive of like market research as well, like government data. So yeah, that is the difference between the two. They're not, it's kind of like comparing like not an apple to an orange, but it's like a Granny Smith apple to like a it's like a Granny Smith apple to like a honey crisp apple. So they're apples and they're meant to do the same thing, but they can't do the same thing. Ivan just basically explained the Buy America Act, which I appreciate you dropping that note, Ivan, but there's a couple loopholes that you can use to get around that. Let me just finish sending this email and then we'll get right back to it. All right, cool. We're back. So procurement history, I compare it to deer tracks in the snow. Okay, Stephanie says I have HireGov. I like how it's laid out, but it has a better interface. The NSN now is more in depth. I think I wish NSN now had a training though. So I am not familiar with HireGov, or I haven't used it. I know of it, but I haven't used it. But I do have a video coming out on Friday talking about a substitute for NSN Now, which is free, and that was put on to me by one of you guys' peers, Luis Suleiman Guy, who's one, I think now he's on like his 8th contract in like 2 months or something like that. But yeah, shout out Luis, and I have a video breaking that down. But back to the procurement history. Procurement history is like deer tracks in the snow. You've heard me say it many, many times before, right? So it tells you the company that bought it, the contract number, how much the government bought, when they bought it, and then whether or not it was surplus. So a guy like me, when I see no surplus and I just see no's going all down the line, and I start licking my chops because I'm like, shit, nobody has surplus for this. So I would start licking my chops, getting excited, which, yeah, that's in the DLA success plan if you guys want to know how to do that. But basically, the most important things to remember about reading procurement history is price and quantity have an inverse relationship. All right, that's number one. So the more you buy something, the cheaper it gets. Usually, these are guidelines. And then typically, as time passes, things get more expensive.
That song was good, wasn't it?
So I'm just gonna ask everybody to mute themselves. But yeah, for the most part, things get more expensive as time goes on, right? So let's just look here. So for instance, right, perfect example, these two things were bought in the same year. 1 unit in 2008, $238, and then 8 units in 2008, $192, right? And then 20 units in 2008 was $192. But then if we come here and we look at in 2016, so 8 years later, it's now $219. So that's kind of like a really good illustration of how price and quantity have an inverse relationship and then how things become reasonably more expensive over time. Now, I used to say that year over year DLA expected like a 3 to 5% price increase, which is true. They do because of inflation, cost of raw materials, labor shortages, all that good stuff, overhead, right? But there is a more definite, finite, exact way to calculate that, and that is using the producer price index. So if you go look at my YouTube video on revealing everything the government told me, part 2, I talk about how to use the producer price index. And if you look at it should be very familiar to you because they actually organize everything by NAICS code, which is super crazy. And then you can look within each NAICS code and it'll tell you like the percentage increase year over year. So I think the most recent producer price index was for 2023. So it'll tell you from 2022 to 2023 the increase in price. And would always give people 3 to 5% as a guideline, but I looked at the producer price index. Some stuff is 7%, some stuff is 12%, some stuff is 2%. So the producer price index, and I got that from the DLA Land and Maritime seminar when I was in Columbus, Ohio. I got that straight from the horse's mouth. They were saying like that is how they base their pricing off of when they're evaluating procurement history. So what does that mean for us as buyers? If you are trying to procure something that hasn't been sold since 2015, and then you get a quote, and obviously it's going to be more expensive, or I shouldn't say obviously, because if you're watching this, maybe you didn't know, but it's more expensive than the quote that you got in 2015. People come to me and they freak out. I'm like, oh, the pricing I'm getting is so shit. Well, I'm like, well, 2015, we were like 7 years removed from a global catastrophe, and then 5 years prior to another one. So, and then inflation also took place. So, almost a decade worth of inflation plus COVID. So, of course, things are going to be more expensive. And then when you couple that with the producer price index, right? It's like, well, if you add in the 12% of the producer price index that it changed last year, and then you do the 3 to 5% rule for every single year, then you're looking at like maybe like a 50% increase. And it's like, when you crunch the numbers and it ends up being like a 48% increase, it's like, well, my math was pretty good. So keep that in mind if you get a quote on something and it was just way more expensive than the last time it was sold, but it was sold like a decade ago. Like, please keep that in mind. COVID happened, and then it's been a decade worth of inflation. So that's kind of like my little spiel on procurement history. We're going to go way more in depth into that in the boot camp. We're going to talk about how you can use procurement history to do market research, but we've got a finite amount of time. So let's come down here, and then this is the description, the purchase request number, NSN number, right? And then this talks about technical and quality requirements found on the website. So for the most part, all these technical and quality requirements, you're going to be able to find these in the solicitation right here in section B. And then this talks about the names of the companies. So RQ011, I forget exactly what it means, but it talks about like if you're gonna basically be selling something that's an alternate, and then it doesn't have like a cage code on it, there's a way that you can go about submitting it, which I'll have all this stuff like down packed and memorized by the time the boot camp comes around. And then here you've just got the companies listed right here. You got the company's name, like their DBA is doing business as. And then everybody freaks out about this, like the mercury containing compound stuff, right? But this is just going to be here in every single solicitation. If there is no mercury in the compound or in the item that you're selling, you don't have to worry about this. It's not applicable to you. All right. And then RD003 CDI cover defense information potentially applies. So CDI and CUI, that has to do with cybersecurity maturity model compliance, which is a mouthful, but basically it talks about classified information versus unclassified information. Can you divulge, where you're getting the stuff from? Can you not? So basically we're going to, again, a lot of stuff that we're going to go more in depth in during the boot camp, but basically the question that you can ask yourself, the litmus test as to whether or not CDI information applies to the item that you're selling is if the government, like let's say had this information leaked, right? So these Siamese connectors, right? If the information or the blueprints were leaked on these Siamese connectors to Russia or China, would it pose a threat to national security? If the answer to that question is no, then you can reasonably assume that cover defense information does not apply. All right. So that's just a litmus test. It's not a one size fits all, but that was the information that I was given during the last DLA training that I went to. Procurement officers will put this through a more stringent test, and it'll be up to them to determine whether or not CDI applies, but that's a test that you can ask yourself. And sometimes when they're giving you a reval, they'll ask you like a reval is short for request for evaluation, which again, we'll touch on in boot camp. But basically whenever the government asks you for paperwork about an item, they'll ask you, hey, does CDI apply to this? If you just need a quick answer, if they give you a deadline and you say, hey, I gotta respond to this reval by this time, just ask yourself, hey, if the blueprints for whatever I'm selling got leaked to China or Russia, would it pose a threat to national security. If the answer is not a hard no, like, okay, yeah, this would be harmless to the US, then you might want to like do a double take and have a word with your contracting officer. Sweet. Okay. A metal casting process was identified as a means to manufacture this item. Tooling is required to produce a casting. Okay, so this goes in depth. This whole metal casting thing talks about like basically if you were going to be manufacturing the item and you were not like an approved source, this would be information that you would get and provide in the SAR, which is the source approval request, and a SAR is comprised of source approval package. So higher level stuff, which we'll talk about in boot camp, but just a breakdown so that way you know what every single package you're looking at means, or every single paragraph, sorry. So then you come here, you have the company's name, you have their case code, and then here you have the part number. Now, please stay tuned for the video that I have coming out on Friday that details that free website because it's going to give you some really good insights into the part numbers. And then here you got the unit of issue and then the quantity. Give me 1 second. Somebody is on the verge of winning their first contract and they're kind of freaking out. I'm just responding as I go. It's we're live in the field out here. That person is like in a back and forth with the contracting officer and they're like negotiating right now. I was like, oh, we'll go back and say it's this price because of the availability. And then he replied and the contracting officer replied, why do we have to wait for Friday? LOL, can we get the good news first, please? And thank you. LOL. Congrats to the new winner. Woot woot. Yeah, thank you guys. Congrats to them. They're not in the call right now. They're working and just if they want to come in here and like leave a comment in the group, they can, just out of respect for them. I will. I won't say their name. The reason why I'm having you guys wait till Friday is because I just posted a video today about how to beat analysis paralysis, and I gotta space it out. I gotta put out like at least enough content for me to get through like the week. So I gotta space it out. Just turn on post notifications on YouTube and subscribe, like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, unit of issue right here. This is each, so this means one individually. Um, I know that you guys watched it, but I've gotta space it out. I gotta give you guys a reason to go and click on the video. It's not like I'm withholding it from you. It's already scheduled. It's ready to go. It's coming out. It's coming out. But yeah, unit of issue. This means one each individual. Please be careful. This is probably the biggest mistake that I see people make is they ignore the unit of issue, and unit of issue is like 100 or package or like bag or roll or feet, and then they underbid themselves significantly because it's a package and they get quotes for 10 individual units, but each package is 10. So it's really 100, but they only get pricing for 10 and then they get screwed. So please pay attention to this. This is the biggest thing that I see. And then PRLI, purchase request line item number. This probably next time around, we'll take a more advanced look at this, but this is basically when one solicitation has multiple line items. Todd Sheridan said, isn't that QUP as well? In the event that the unit of issue is each, then yes, QUP is also going to be 1. However, if the unit of issue is 100, right? Let's say it's a package, right? And then each package contains 100, but the QUP is 5. Let's say DLA wants 10, right? 10 packages of 100, so that's really 1,000, right? So it's 1,000, but instead of you being able to give them 10 packages of 100, the QUP might be 5. So you really have to give them all 1,000 individual units of whatever they're asking for, but in bags of 5. So instead of sending them 10 bags, you need to send them 200 bags. That's a real thing. Like that happens. Like people lose because of that all the time, or they have to cancel and they only cancel it after the 10-day period, and then they decided they wanted to order the stuff, and then they didn't run it by me, they didn't run it by anybody in the group. Todd says, gotcha. Sounds like a headache. No job is too hard if you have the right tools. That's why I'm here to give you guys the right tools with these free calls and with bootcamp and with YouTube videos. So purchase request number here, again, here's a lot of redundancy. You'll see that. Then PRLI, purchase request line item number, continued. So this means that this is the information for the first item on the line, or the first line item on the solicitation. And then it says delivery in days 0067. So for you guys that are alumni or are going to join in the bootcamp, we'll talk about how to get around that. Quantity variance. We're going to save that for another time, but for the most part, you really don't have to worry about it. Quantity variance only comes into play once you start bidding on contracts that have 500 units or more, and individual units, by the way. So like the example that we just talked about, if it's 5 packages and the packages are 100 each, then quantity variance might come into play. Inspection point destination, so that's good. That means the government's going to inspect it once it gets to their place. Acceptance point destination, and then prep for delivery. So here's the packaging data right here. I can't even, it's not even a secret anymore. I can't even hide it. Camp Hill Lidos, if you go to their Camp Hill Lidos packaging code lookup, you can put all this information and it'll break it down. However, watch the video on Friday because there's a little tip and trick about how to interpret that. And then it says underneath here, by the way, all this stuff, like everything in this little box, which I don't know why my mouse has not been highlighting. I need to get a new laptop. This is like the average MacBook. I need like the business MacBook. But this right here talks about palletization. Palletization is only required if the shipment exceeds 600 pounds. So if your shipment is 599.99 pounds, you don't need to get it palletized. If it's 600 pounds on the dot, like not an ounce over, you don't need to get it palletized. Actually, no, that's not true. I'm sorry, I flip-flopped it. If it's 600 on the dot, you do need to get it palletized. If it's 599 on the dot, or 599.99, you don't need to get it palletized. All right, cool. Oops. And then parcel post address. So here's the address code, or the 5-digit code, parcel post address code. I forget what it is. I would have to look in WAF to give you like the exact name, but this is the code that you're going to put in WAF, wide area workflow, when you're ready to invoice. And this code will also auto-populate in BSM when you print out your labels. And then I've actually been to this place, DLA distribution in New Cumberland, Pennsylvania. And then this is the address of like where it's going. So sometimes the parcel post address and the freight shipping address are going to be different. Whenever that's the case, if they're both in the US, just bid on it. If they're both in the US, and just bid on it. And then once you print out your label in BSM, it will give you like the actual end use place of where it's going. All right, cool. So we're at 637. I kind of went super in depth with this one. I'm sorry, Victoria. What I will do though is you can shoot me a text in the Skool community, and I'll do a solicitation breakdown on the one that you sent me specifically, because I mean I said it was first come, first serve, so I still want to get it out to you. And I've been meaning to do another solicitation breakdown anyways, because I think the last time I did one, I only had like 300 subscribers or something like that. So I'll do another one for you guys. We have 7 minutes, so I will rip through any questions that you guys have. So I'm going to start with William, just because I see he started. He said, when submitting a bid, there's a section where you denote you're a dealer, then ask for the manufacturer cage code. In the case of McMaster-Carr, they're a reseller, but they're the approved source, but they're not the manufacturer. So in the case of McMaster-Carr, because they're the approved source and you're getting it from them, put McMaster-Carr's cage code. So basically, to William's question was, if the approved source is a distributor, right? So let's say the person that's the approved source doesn't actually make this stuff, but DLA has them listed as the people that you need to go to get it, and they want to see the cage code where you're supposed to denote who you're getting it from. Put in the cage code of the distributor if they are the approved source. So I hope that clears it up. So I hope that answered your question, William. Stephanie Roberts said, isn't there also dimension requirements for palletization more than 60 square feet or something? Actually, you are correct. There are dimension requirements for palletization. I don't know if it's exactly 60 feet. I think it's closer to like 40 or 50. It's up there. It's closer to 40 or 50 feet. But in my experience, just from like 130 contracts that I've been on myself, and then like another 50 that I've done for other companies, typically when something is greater than 60 square feet, it's usually also more than 600 pounds. So all the time that I've had to palletize stuff that was super big, I never really paid attention to the dimensions just because it was like that heavy. Maybe I hope that was like that's the transparent answer. That's not the know-it-all. I'm gonna like bullshit you. That's the transparent answer. So we are the inner circle even more. Reason for you to spill the beans. I need you to subscribe. I need you to subscribe and share the videos, and I need you to send it to your friends so that way we can grow. It's not like I'm hiding it from you. It's coming out in 48 hours. Yvette says, I recently viewed a solicitation requirement for compliance to NIST 800 171. Will I do a video on this topic soon? I I cannot make like one singular video on NIST. I'm gonna have to devote like a whole day to it. I'm literally gonna have to devote a whole day to it in boot camp. Like we're literally gonna talk about CMMC, how to do it, how to be in compliance for free. I'm gonna give you guys like the people that we're doing. And Two Lines Aerospace. When I say Two Lines Aerospace, basically what we did was we brought on my dad's brother, my uncle, who had a background in IT, and he's getting certified to do our CMMC. And we're going to basically create a program where they're not a program where you can get CMMC certified, but we're going to be able to do the certifications for people. So we just paid for him. We paid quite a lot of money for him to go get certified to be a surveyor so he can come and certify you guys, because right now it's about the cheapest. It used to be 100 grand. Now it's 50 grand to get CMMC certified. We are working on getting it done for significantly cheaper than that. So that's something that we're working on. You guys still have like 18 months, like a year and a half before it's a requirement. So by then we're going to work on getting that done. And we're going to have like once the time comes, anybody who's like an alum or anything like that, that we send to, or that you go to Two Lines Aerospace to get your CMMC certification, done, right? It's going to be at a discounted rate. We're trying to work. We're working on getting it done. Right now, it's just so expensive because there's not enough companies that are out there doing it. So they kind of have a monopoly on it, and they're charging like exorbitant amounts of money. So to answer your question, I'm not gonna make a video on it. I might touch on like the requirements of it and like what it means and like what you have to get done. But in order to make a video on like compliance, that's gonna be like a 4 or 5 hour like endeavor. So that's gonna get touched on during boot camp. Ivan Knight says, from your experience, are businesses that offer net 30 like Uline DLA approved? Primarily whenever I'm dealing with somebody that's giving us net 30, it's usually from a distributor. Like I don't really know of approved sources that are giving out net 30 in the beginning. Like if you're gonna get net 30 from an approved source, you had to have printed them some money. That's just my honest experience. Drew Baby TV says, would Hard Space be your second weapon? Honestly, I don't know. I want to tell you that my second weapon would be Lucy, but developing an app is hard and it's taken a long time, and we finally got the registration page up, but now Michael and I are working on a contract. That's just me being 100% transparent. The dev team was lagging, and then I took some time off for my check ride because I had to focus. And now we're working out the kinks of like the contract and the agreement going forward. You guys are gonna have your 25% off for a year. Michael says, "Oh, we can only give you commission for a year." I'm like, people are gonna watch my videos for the duration for more than a year. You guys are still gonna get business from me shouting you guys out for more than a year. So I was like, I'm not gonna sign anything if you're gonna try and cut me off after a year, when I'm like your main affiliate. So that's the main holdup with Lucy. I'm just being transparent. Todd Sheridan says, to add on to William's question, if Grainger is a reseller dealer, do we add Grainger as the manufacturer when we quote, or do we ask Grainger for traceability? If Grainger is the approved source, then you can you can add Grainger as a manufacturer. If they are the distributor and they're distributing something on behalf of the approved source, then you need to get traceability from them. Stephanie says, I had to ship 140 boxes something, so the total of them met the requirement. They weren't necessarily heavy. I was just making sure. Yeah, that's a unique case, but yes, that is true. That could happen. Yeah, if you have to do 140 individual boxes and they're full ass boxes, yes, that could happen. Any tips on adding a plug number for shipping when a supplier will not provide that information? I'm not gonna lie, I do not know what a plug number is. I feel like it's probably something else that we call something different internally at Two Lines Aerospace, or that I teach my clients to call something different, but I'm not gonna lie to you and say I know what a plug number is. Probably, I know what it is, it might just be a different name. Drew Baby TV said, thanks, you motivated me to run a 5K, keep pushing. I like that. That's fire. That made me happy.
So there you have it, guys. That is a full DLA solicitation breakdown. I truly hope you got as much out of this video as the students did on the coaching call with Day. Now, if you are serious about growing your government contracting business, and you want to be making the money you truly believe you could be making and have that life of freedom you truly want, much like many of the students on the coaching call and some of the students you've seen on our YouTube channel, then now is the time to take action. There is no point in waiting. The best time to have taken your business to the next level was yesterday. The next best time is today. If that resonates with you, then book a call down below to speak with myself and the team. We will guide you through step by step all of the processes that we've used to go from $0 to $50 million in government contracting sales. Get the support from the best in the business. Google our cage code 8 Bravo Papa Echo 2. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. I'll speak to you on the call, or I'll see you in the next video. Catch you soon.